Today we are at Frank Slide Interpretive Centre here in Western Alberta. We're checking out the Frank Slide disaster of the slide that came off the mountain and buried the entire town. Hey everyone, my name is Leslie. Welcome to Midlife DIY. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel out so very much. So let's jump into this and see what the area has to offer. Nestled beneath the towering limestone cliffs of Turtle Mountain in the Crowsnest Pass, the Frank Slide Interpretive Centre overlooks one of Canada's most remarkable natural disasters. From this vantage point, visitors can see the massive field of broken rock that forever changed the community of Frank in the early hours of April 29, 1903. At 4:10 that morning, more than 82 million tons of limestone broke away from Turtle Mountain and thundered into the valley below. In less than 2 minutes, the Rockslide buried part of the town of Frank, destroyed sections of the Canadian Pacific Railway, covered roads and farmland, and claimed the lives of an estimated 70 to 90 people. It remains the deadliest rockslide in Canadian history. The Interpretive Centre was built to help visitors understand not only what happened, but why it happened. Through interpretive exhibits, photographs, artifacts, and personal accounts, the centre tells the story of the people who lived in Frank and the events that unfolded before, during, and after the disaster. One exhibit explains how coal mining beneath Turtle Mountain may have contributed to instability within the mountain, while another explores the geological forces that shaped the region over millions of years. Visitors also learn how emergency crews, railway workers, and local residents responded in the hours following the slide, despite the enormous challenges they faced. The stories shared throughout the centre focus on more than the disaster itself. Families who survived described the chaos of that morning, while rescuers recalled searching through mountains of broken limestone in hopes of finding survivors. These personal accounts transform a geological event into a deeply human story. Large viewing windows from the slide path allowing visitors to appreciate the immense scale of the rockfall. From inside the centre, it becomes easier to understand why the landscape still appears much as it did more than a century ago. The boulders scattered across the valley are so large and numerous that removing them was never practical. Outside, interpretive trails lead visitors toward the edge of the slide. Walking among the enormous limestone blocks provides a perspective that photographs cannot capture. Some of the boulders are the size of small houses, while others were carried hundreds of meters from the mountain by the incredible force of the collapse. The centre also explores the continuing movement of Turtle Mountain. Modern monitoring equipment measures subtle shifts within the rock, allowing geologists to track changes and better understand the mountain's stability. Although small rockfalls continue to occur naturally, ongoing research helps protect nearby communities and transportation corridors. Beyond the exhibits, the surrounding landscape tells its own story. The dramatic peaks of the Rocky Mountains, the remnants of the mining community, and the scar left on Turtle Mountain all remind visitors that people have long lived alongside powerful natural forces in this region. Many visitors arrive expecting to learn about a single tragic event and leave with a deeper appreciation for the history of the Crowsnest Pass. The centre brings together geology, engineering, mining, and human resilience, offering a balanced perspective on how communities recover after disaster. The Frank Slide Interpretive Centre welcomes visitors throughout much of the year and serves as an excellent starting point for exploring guided programs, educational exhibits, and nearby walking trails make it a destination for families, school groups, history enthusiasts, and anyone interested in Alberta's rich natural and cultural heritage. More than a museum, the Frank Slide Interpretive Centre preserves the memory of a community forever shaped by one extraordinary morning. It offers visitors an opportunity to reflect on the forces that continue to shape our landscape while honoring the people whose lives became part of Canada's most significant historical events. For anyone driving through southern Alberta, it's one of those places that photos struggle to capture. Standing among the boulders, you quickly realize you're walking across what is essentially a frozen river of rock that buried an entire community in under 2 minutes. A remarkable survival story. 17 miners working underground when the slide occurred became trapped because the mine entrance was buried. Instead of panicking, they dug through coal and rock and eventually escaped to safety. Their survival remains one of the most remarkable aspects of the disaster. Directly over my shoulder is Turtle Mountain and the notorious Frank Slide site. Below us here is where the town site was that was covered by the rockfall. We're going to check out all of the pathways outside of the Interpretive Centre and see what we can learn about this site. Thanks so much for joining me. So the Interpretive Centre and the site of Frank Slide is actually very close to the current town of Bellevue, Alberta, as well as Hillcrest, which was also a site of one of Alberta's other biggest disasters. The site has these wonderful walking paths, so you can basically crisscross the area, get all the different angles and views. So we're gonna have a little wander, meander, and see what we can see here. Perfect summer day today. It's about 20 degrees Celsius. Forecast high, I think, for this particular area is 24, whereas back down in the lower foothills is going to be about 29 degrees today. So we are enjoying the more temperate weather that comes with the higher altitude. So the Interpretive Centre itself is $18 per adult. To tour that, it includes a theatre show and all the various sites. Look at this beautiful flower. All the wildflowers here. There seems to be quite a focus on the worry of future rock slides here at Turtle Mountain. Some are beautiful. This almost looks like a tiny, I'm sure I'm going to get this wrong, but like a tiny wild version of the lupins I keep in my flower beds at home. If you know exactly what that is, note it down in the comments below. So just up ahead there is the peak where the slide began. There's just no possible way for it to translate onto video the size of this site or how steep that top peak is. So the town itself would have been like right in here. Just imagine the speed with which that rock would have gained coming down that steep incline. It says the town of Frank was not destroyed by the slide of 1903. 500 of its 600 inhabitants were unaffected by the event. The surviving section of town, dating from 1901, was moved north by the Royal Commission report in 1911. Warned of a possible slide from Turtle Mountain's North Peak. The town grew after the slide, and homes from Old Frank were moved across the railway tracks to become part of New Frank, or went to other Crowsnest Pass communities and farther. The Imperial Hotel was moved to Vulcan, Alberta, where it can still be seen today. In the 1930s, concerns about the stability of the South Peak resulted in another move for those living in the mountain's shadow. You can see just the massive piles of boulders slid down below. Alright, let's carry on down the pathway. We are going to get to walk right down into that rock slide, the rock pile lower down. Some beautiful wildflowers here. And the odd weed. Here we have the Interpretive Centre on our left and the slide on our right here. A debris field. We'll find find the pathway that goes down in here so we can check that out as well. You'd never know it, but the Highway 22 actually does go through here. You can see a little bit of the traffic. It goes right through the middle. So this is the pathway that we hope descends down into the rockfall zone. Look at all the berries. Hopefully we don't find a bear chasing those berries. Such a peaceful place. Frank Slide Trail, a hurricane of rocks. Okay, here we go. This may get a bit bumpy. I apologize in advance. I don't know that I would say this is wheelchair accessible. The incline is rather intense, and it would make for a super bumpy ride. So I don't know that I'd recommend that, although there's quite a bit you could see up at the Interpretive Centre itself. Looks like we have some rock climbing enthusiasts further down here. Just for scale, you can see how small they look up against that, what looks like a reasonably small rock in comparison to the mountainside and the scenery. Given how much downhill we are treading here, I'm already coming to the grim realization that the return back to the parking lot is probably going to draw a significant sweat from me. I think probably wise to bring yourself a water for this. I did not. Rookie mistake. Just some pops of color in amongst the rocks, which is really, really beautiful. You would almost never know that there's an interpretive center right there. The size of these rocks is significant. So for reference, there's the interpretive center where we were moments ago. Such a stark difference from the rocks and then the lush landscape all around. So quiet out here. Getting closer to the valley. Ooh, gets a little tighter in here. Oh, there's a little tiny, I don't know if you can see him, chipmunk. Munching on a, looks like a dandelion. Cute little guy. I can hear the train. I'm not sure how obscured it will be by the rockfall. See if we can find a place to spot it. I want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me out so very much, and I look forward to seeing you in the very next video.